Is your mower causing these ugly scar marks in your lawn just like it is mine? Well, let's find out why this is happening and what we can do about it. Every time I've mowed recently, I've found these spots where the rotary blade is producing these circle patterns on the grass, and it's looking really ugly. These scars might be looking familiar to you because you either got them yourself or you've seen them on somebody else's lawn. There could be a couple reasons for why this is happening, but it's typically caused by a mower that's not properly aligned. When the mower isn't cutting evenly, it's going to leave behind these ugly circular marks from the rotary blade. And it's really frustrating because it makes the lawn look horrible. But while we're out here, let's go ahead and take a look at the first problem that we could diagnose. We want to look at our grass blades. And this is going to tell us if the mower blade is dull or not. If they appear to be jagged or torn in some way or another without them being cut cleanly, that's going to be a sign that your mower blade is dull. It might be hard to tell with these small grass blades because Bermuda is very thin. Other types of grass have very thin blades. But if that's not obvious to you, then let's look at the next thing. We're going to check for these patches of grass to see if these areas have any spots where we have bumps or dips, because the mower is most certainly not going to be cutting as evenly in those areas. If you want to maintain a lower height of cut, it's really important to keep your lawn level to avoid this problem. Sometimes these spots can be very easy to see, but sometimes it's a little more difficult to tell. If you're not sure about whether your area is level or not, you can get a large wooden board, you can get a level, you can maybe even use a landscape rake to test if the areas are uneven. Just put it down on the ground of the areas where you think you might have some dips, and you're going to look for some gaps underneath it. Actually, I know I need to do a major leveling project here. That's going to be coming up in a video soon, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see that. Now let's take a closer look at the mower itself. Okay, we're going to need to figure out what's wrong with this mower, and we're going to need some tools actually before we get started. So first off, we need a measuring tape. You might want to get a decent pair of gloves. I've got IT hands. These things are delicate. I would also suggest us going ahead and getting some wrenches because you may be needing to screw off some of these bolts, especially if we're working with the blade. You're going to need one of these. And then lastly, I would suggest getting a block of wood. This is going to be something where we can hold that blade in place. If we've got to work with it, if we've got to sharpen it, if it's dull, or if it needs replacement. Now first we got to check to see if the blade is sharp. Is it properly attached? Is it loose or is it dull? Because that could be some obvious reasons why we're having these problems. So let's tip this over. Take a look at it here. Get our gloves on. See if this thing is properly attached. Probably a good suggestion to take out the spark plug. Didn't mention that before, but that's a good idea. And put this block of wood here so it doesn't move. So lay right there. All right, that's not going anywhere. All right, so we're looking here at the blade. Everything here is tight. My blade though is looking a little dull. It could probably use some sharpening. Probably could do that without even taking it off with a hand file, but the blade is not in too bad a condition. There is a little nick right there from probably where it got a rock. And now what I want to do is actually measure this blade. I want to see if this blade is bent in any way or another, if this post, if this shaft that's coming down that holds the blade, if it's cockeyed. So I'm going to do a couple measurements here. I want to try to measure right there to the edge because that's the best thing we can do right now. It looks like we're right at a 1/2 inch, and we're right at 1/2 inch on that other side, so that lines up. That doesn't give me any indication that the blade is bent or if the post is bent. Now the second step would be to see if the mower deck itself is sitting level to the ground. You're going to need some concrete, you're going to need some level surface of some kind. If you don't have that, I would suggest getting maybe a piece of wood, maybe some plywood would be good. You could sit it on something level. And so I'm going to take that out real quick and I'm going to turn this over. I'm just going to measure around the sides to see if they're all the same. That's interesting. Okay. So one thing that I see here is this mower deck on the front side is sitting maybe 2/8 of an inch, a little lower here on the front. It could be hitting it at an angle a little bit, which would be producing those scar marks, especially when this is at a lower setting. So that would be something that I would want to look at, is to see, okay, my back wheels are at the lowest setting possible. This thing will only go down to 1 inch. And these wheels right here, this one's turned, so maybe that is a problem. Line up your wheels Measure again. And guess what? That actually changed it. That actually changed it. So that is interesting. When these wheels get turned, this front side lowers. Kind of curious. I'm going to lift this up one setting and see if the back wheels end up doing the same thing. What kind of level we're at that point. Line these up. 1.25 inches. Inch and 1/4. And that's right at 1 inch. You know, I've also noticed that whenever these things are on the lowest setting, that these wheels, they don't want to move freely. Look at that. That's not even at the lowest setting, but that right there, if you're trying to turn the wheels, they get caught up a lot. But what I'm going to do is actually, the next time I mow, is take these front wheels and push them up to the second level and see what it does. It's going to be some trial and error with this because it does seem that these front wheels are a problem. They're either messing up the height adjustment and making the mower deck unlevel, or they're just, you know, not moving freely anymore. They're worn out. I could probably try to put some WD-40 down here, but that seems to be my problem here. So when do you know when it's time to retire your mower? If you tried to fix all the obvious problems and you know that nothing else is the issue, it might be a time for a new one. And a good rule of thumb that I like to consider is if the repair costs are going to exceed about 50% of what it would cost to replace it and get a new one, that's the time. If you're constantly having to replace parts, if you're spending more money on those repairs than the mower is worth, that's obviously a clear sign, and it's a good time to replace it. But that rule of thumb doesn't just go for mowers. I would say that's for any appliance or anything, any kind of machine that we're having and using around our house. Also, you want to consider the age of the mower. If it's over 10 years old and it's still giving you trouble, and it might be nearing its lifespan, if you're having trouble with the engine even after it's been repaired, or if you're having trouble with it after you've changed the oil, you've changed the spark plugs, done all the obvious things, maybe you need to change the carburetor, that would be another easy fix for any decent small repair engine guy. And if you tried all that and you're still having issues with the engine, it's probably a good time to get a new one. My mower engine though has been great. I've never had to do any major repairs over the last 20 years that I've had it. I'll try to find some replacement parts, maybe for these wheels, put some WD-40 here, see if those will start turning a lot easier. Here comes another plane. But I want to make sure that I get the most out of this mower as long as I've got it. And honestly, it's a tough decision because this mower has served me so well throughout the years. But now I think it's time for an upgrade. This new mower makes a huge difference in how this thing cuts, and it's just so much smoother when it's mowing. It's made mowing enjoyable again for me, especially since I'm mowing twice a week. I'm out there a lot in the yard, and it's honestly like having a good mattress. You spend a lot of time on that mattress, so you need a good one. But make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss this leveling project that I got coming soon. And if you want to learn more about proper cutting heights, you should check this video out right here. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.